Welcome my dear students of class 10A to my history class. Today, these points which I have mentioned in the board, please look at it. Formation of the interim government, at least declaration, the Mountbatten Plan, its acceptance, role of Muslim League. Now, formation of the interim government. The process of establishing one interim government in India by the British was obstructed due to conflict between the two political parties, the Congress and the Muslim League. The Muslim League was trying to non-cooperate with the Congress since Congress was a political party for the Hindu people and it had huge majority and popularity. Since Congress party was established in the year 1885 and Muslim League later during the 20th century it was established and Congress during 19th century. That's why it should be better for them to demand separate electorates for them, separate constituent assembly for the Muslims. But the British was not agree. And as a result, the process of making one interim government in India was obstructed and finally the British decided to allow the Congress to contest election for Constituent Assembly. So in the Constituent Assembly election, Congress took part and they won many seats. They won 201 seats. And the Muslim League also took part in the election, but they won only 73 seats. And as a result, they refused to join the interim government because they realized that the role of Muslim League would be carved and they would not be given importance. That's why they decided not to join the interim government. Jawaharlal Nehru requested Muslim League leaders to join the interim government, but still they refused to join. And hence, Congress decided to join the interim government. And because many good ministries were offered to the Congress, and then Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was controlling the programs and other, daily programs and the dates of different meetings, he asked the Muslim leagues to non-cooperate with the Congress. Because of that reason, the Muslim leagues, main demand for separate electorates or for separate constituent assembly was not accepted by the British. So the league felt isolated and attacked both the British and the Congress. Ultimately, in the year 1946, League passed a resolution rejecting the Cabinet Mission Plan, and then in the same year, 14th August 1946, Nehru was invited to form the interim government, and when Nehru agreed, Jinnah declared to oppose the Congress. Jinnah declared on August 16, 1946, as the Direct Action Day, which meant the Muslims were asked to take Muslims were asked to take their demand for a nation onto the streets. They decided to take their demands by hook or by crook. As a result, there was a riot on the streets, and thousands of people died. Many were wounded, and so many people, they all became homeless, and many people also were temporarily, you know, you know, uh, many people were, attacked by the police. So they all were scattered. So there was a situation. The British realized that it was there was a situation created due to non-cooperation of the Muslim League. The British uh, was unable to manage the Muslim League and their leaders. And then what happened? The riot raged until Gandhiji intervened with his determination to fact and truth. Ultimately, you know, 5,000 lives were lost. 5,000 lives were lost and 15,000 were injured. Approximately, these statistics are given. And near about 1 lakh were rendered homeless. And ultimately, what happened? Jinnah was asked, Jinnah once again was asked to join the interim government, but once again he refused. But instead he declared 2nd September a day of mourning, and there were a protest all over the country. The League decided to join ultimately the government in October, but only to create situation that joined the new cabinet that would not allow it to function. That means League decided to join the interim government uh, because an important ministry, the Ministry of Finance, was offered for the League. And ultimately, Jinnah realized that it would be better for them to join the interim government since the Ministry of Finance, as a finance minister, the member of the Muslim League would obstruct the way of smooth running of the government. The government could not run smoothly because of the non-cooperation of the finance minister. In the interest of the Muslim League, they decided to do it so, and hence they joined the Muslim League joined the interim government under the guidance of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And ultimately, what happened? Ali Jinnah uh, permitted Liaquat Ali Khan to be the finance minister. A minister of finance, as a minister of finance, Liaquat Ali was able to dictate policy of Muhammad Ali Jinnah and obstruct the effective functioning of the government. And ultimately, the non-cooperative attitude and tactics proved that a united Indian government was not possible. It was simply impossible. And hence, the chaos that prevailed made the administration was impossible. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru also realized that a united government and the non-cooperative attitude of the Muslim League, especially Ali Liaquat Khan as a finance minister, obstructed their way of development and growth throughout the country, and the other ministers were unable to realize their schemes, their promises before the people of India, and hence they had been eagerly waiting for another decision and another action on the part of the British. In February 1947, you know, in February 1947, Clement Attlee, the Prime Minister of England, declared the situation of India to be most explosive, and that was and that it was essential for England to transfer the power at the earliest, because an interim government was not possible in India. Clement Attlee realized it. Because of that contradiction between Muslim League and Congress, that's why they decided to cede power to the Indians as the earliest, and ultimately he set the date in June 1948 He said that this would be done whether or not the League and the Congress came to any compromise or not. But the power would be shifted to the Indians, and it was their responsibility to make a reconciliation between themselves. And it was due to that reason John Attlee decided to make an arrangement to shift power to the Indians as early as possible. And next one, the Mountbatten plan. What is Mountbatten plan? You know, Lord Mountbatten, took over as the Viceroy of India in March 1947. And when the communal tension between the Hindus and the Muslims had reached truly victims level, he tried to negotiate between the two communities of India, the Hindus and the Muslims. The Muslims, as a minority party, under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, realized that they should have their own country, separate country, Pakistan. But until the British government was accepting it, until the Congress was non-cooperating with them, they would never stop making riots and other, and other, uh, other non-cooperative attitudes towards the Hindus and towards the Congress. That's why they always attacked Congress. They always attacked, the Hindus, and there was a riot between the two communities of India, the Hindus and the Muslims. That's why Lord Mountbatten tried to negotiate it between the two leaders of the two parties. But when he found that both sides remained adamant, he prepared to make a plan which provided for the state of Pakistan to be formed. And ultimately, some specific, plan. A plan also was proposed by Lord Mountbatten for the two political parties, the Congress and the Muslim League. Number one, the country would be divided into two dominions, India and Pakistan. Second one, the provinces of Assam, Bengal and Punjab would be divided, and the seats would have the choice of joining either dominions. The NWFP, Northwest Frontier Province, would have a referendum to decide which dominion it would belong to. And next one, the transfer of power would happen by August 15, 1947. So these were the proposals of Lord Mountbatten. He produced before the two political parties, the Congress and the Muslim League. And as a result, what happened? The bloodshed which had been so severe that the Congress decided to agree with this plan in order to avoid bloodshed, in order to avoid riots, and ultimately both of the two political parties decided to accept. But Gandhiji raised objection because Gandhiji wanted an undivided India. He did not want to make India divided into two dominions, India and Pakistan, but an undivided India. But under such circumstances, where the Britishers were trying to cede power to the Indians as their earliest, on behalf of the Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru realized that it should be a correct decision by the Congress to take to accept the proposal of Lord Mountbatten and to accept the proposal of the Muslim League to divide India into two dominions, one for Hindus and another one for Pakistan. But how it would be realized, that would be dependent on, the two political parties' dialogues and meetings. They would come to a conclusion, and which part of the territories of India would become a part of Pakistan and would become a part of India. That would be decided after a long discussions with the political parties of India and the British. And on behalf of the British, Lord Mountbatten decided to make them agree with this proposal. And ultimately, um the proposal for dividing India into two dominions were accepted by both the political parties, the Congress and the Muslim League. And Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi remained silent because his proposal was not accepted by the Congress and Muslim League. And ultimately, you know, it was the Lord Mountbatten's plan was accepted. And now role of Muslim League. What was about the role of Muslim League? During the crisis period, Muslim League, realized that they are, minority party in India. Since they own only 3 seats in the Constituent Assembly election, they felt insulted and refused to join the interim government. Congress owned 201 seats in the Constituent Assembly election. Naturally, they were asked to form the interim government. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru agreed to form interim government. He requested Muslim League to join the interim government, but they refused to do it. Why? Because Muslim League's intention was to make a separate political constituent assembly until the government of Britain would accept their demand of separate separate country, Pakistan. But when the British did not accept the demand of, did not cede the power to the Indians, and India would become free, then how is it possible a separate state would be offered to the Muslims first? It was not possible. Ali Jinnah realized it later. That's why he ultimately decided to join the Constituent Assembly, provided he offered a ministry, finance ministry. And ultimately, now what was the intention of Muhammad Ali Jinnah? His main intention was to non-cooperate with the Congress in and by not sanctioning the amount of money the other ministers demanded for their expenditure, demanded for their programs. And as a finance minister, Liaquat Ali Khan, he decided to do it under the instruction of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and the entire process of the interim government was totally hampered. That's why ultimately both of the two Congress leaders, decided that united government in India was not possible. It was impossible. And under such circumstances, as I mentioned earlier, Lord Mountbatten came and solved this problem. And then what happened to it? What was about the salient points of the Indian Independence Act of 1947? That matter I shall discuss next day. Thank you.